Maria gripped the worn paper tighter. The line in front of her moved slowly. The big bank lobby buzzed with a low hum, like a hive full of impatient bees. Nobody paid attention to her at first. She looked ordinary. Old jeans. A faded sweater. No makeup. No expensive jewelry. A sharp voice called from behind the counter, breaking her focus. Next. Maria stepped forward. The clerk glanced at her, nose wrinkling slightly. Yes, she said, tapping her long nails on the marble counter. Maria placed the paper carefully on the counter. I need to speak to the manager, she said. The woman's eyebrows lifted. Her lips curled into a tight, fake smile. Manager is busy. What is the issue? Maria stayed calm. I was asked to bring this slip. It's about account consolidation. The clerk barely glanced at it. You need a minimum balance to discuss consolidation. Her voice was loud. Too loud. Heads turned. Maria felt dozens of eyes on her. She shifted her weight from one foot to another. She said, I think you should read it properly. The clerk laughed lightly. You people always think you know better. Maria's stomach twisted. She hated attention like this. She hated feeling small. She hated that she could feel her face getting hotter by the second. A few people behind her started whispering. One man in a crisp suit snickered and nudged his friend. Lost tourists, he said under his breath. Maria heard it. She heard everything. But she stayed quiet. Another woman nearby took a step closer, curiosity burning in her eyes. She tilted her head like Maria was a strange animal at a zoo. Maria thought about turning around. She thought about walking out. But she stayed. She remembered why she had come. She remembered who she was doing this for. 7 minutes passed. Long, crawling minutes where every second stretched like an hour. Then the doors of the bank slammed open. A tall man strode in, and the mood shifted like a sudden gust of wind. He wore a sharp black suit. He moved with the easy confidence of someone who had never been ignored in his life. Alexander Bennett. Some people recognized him immediately. Others stared, confused but curious. But they all felt it, the shift in the room. He spotted Maria instantly. He walked straight to her. He reached her side, placing one reassuring hand on her shoulder. The clerk's eyes widened. The manager, who had refused to come earlier, now nearly tripped over himself rushing forward. Security guards straightened up, faces serious. Alexander did not even glance at anyone else. He looked only at Maria. His face softened. Then he spoke. Is there a problem with serving my wife? The room went still. People froze mid-step. Whispers died in their throats. Even the phones people had secretly raised to record now hung uselessly at their sides. The clerk swallowed hard. The manager's smile became stiff. He stuttered, and no, sir. Of course not. Alexander pulled a small, shiny card from his wallet and dropped it on the counter. The black metal glinted under the bright bank lights. It was the kind of card people only heard rumors about. No limit. No restrictions. No questions asked. Maybe you can help us now, Alexander said softly. The threat in his voice was wrapped in velvet but sharp as a knife. The manager leaned so far over the counter he almost fell onto it. Of course, sir. Right this way, sir. Maria raised her chin. She looked the clerk straight in the eye. I would like to close all our accounts, she said. The manager gasped. The clerk opened and closed her mouth like a fish. Several customers gasped too. Alexander smiled at Maria. Pride lit up his face. He gave her a small nod of encouragement. Whatever you want, love. The lobby turned into a silent battlefield. The same people who had laughed now looked at Maria with wide, fearful eyes. Someone whispered from the back. "Is that the Alexander Bennett?" Another voice replied. "She's his wife. But she looks so normal." Maria heard it all. But this time, she did not care. She felt something rise inside her. Something strong. Something fierce. She turned to the manager. "You can start by retrieving all records attached to the Bennett accounts," she said firmly. Her voice did not shake. Not even a little. The manager nodded so fast he looked dizzy. "Right away, ma'am." "Please, right this way." He gestured toward the glass-walled VIP suite. The same one he had earlier claimed was closed for maintenance. Maria smiled politely. "No need. I prefer to stay right here." She wanted them all to see. Every eye stayed glued to her as she stood tall, proud, and unbothered. 10 minutes later, a different employee arrived, carrying a thick folder trembling in his hands. He placed it on the counter carefully, like it might explode. Maria flipped it open. She skimmed through numbers so large they barely looked real. One page showed holdings in 12 countries. Another listed private investments that spanned tech, energy, and aerospace. People nearby tried to peek without being obvious. One man leaned so far he nearly fell over the velvet rope dividing the line. Maria closed the folder and looked up. "I'll have my lawyers follow up," she said. "And I expect written confirmation by the end of today." The manager nodded so fast Maria feared his head might fly off. "Yes, ma'am. Absolutely, ma'am." Alexander leaned down, kissed the side of her head, and whispered. "You were perfect." Maria smiled. Not for anyone else. Just for him. Alexander picked up the black card, slipped it back into his wallet, and turned toward the doors. Maria followed him without a glance back. They stepped outside into the sunlight. Alexander reached into his pocket and handed Maria a small velvet box. Her heart skipped a beat. "What's this?" she asked, voice shaky now. After everything, it felt surreal. He smiled. "Open it." Inside the box sat a set of keys. Not just any keys. Attached to them was a small gold plate with an engraving. Bennett Foundation, Director, Maria Bennett. Maria blinked, confused. "Foundation? What foundation?" Alexander laughed softly. "The one you're going to lead," he said. "I bought the old city hospital. It's yours now. To turn into something beautiful. For women like you once were. Strong women. Brave women." Maria stared at him, stunned. All her life, people had judged her by her clothes, her accent, her background. Now, she held the power to change lives. "Why me?" she asked, barely whispering. Alexander touched her cheek gently. "Because you see what others miss," he said. "Because you remember what it feels like to be invisible. And because you deserve to be seen now." Tears filled her eyes, but she blinked them away. She gripped the keys tightly. She felt their weight. She felt their promise. Then Alexander leaned closer and whispered something that chilled her to the bone. He said, "Before we can start, there's something you need to know. Someone has been waiting for you inside that building for a very long time." Maria's heart stopped. "What do you mean?" she asked. Alexander did not answer. He just smiled sadly and pointed toward the hospital. Maria turned slowly, her eyes tracing the shape of the old building. The sun cast long shadows across its broken windows and crumbling walls. A single figure stood there. Watching. Waiting. And Maria somehow knew. Her story was only just beginning. Maria's breath caught in her chest as she stared at the figure standing outside the hospital. The building loomed behind them, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch across the overgrown lawn. The figure's face was hidden in the dimming light, but the posture, straight, rigid, was unmistakable. They were waiting. And that waiting felt like it had been going on for years. "Who is that?" Maria's voice was barely a whisper, but Alexander's keen hearing caught it. He didn't respond immediately, his eyes narrowing as he studied the figure standing motionless in the distance. "They shouldn't be here," he muttered under his breath, his hand instinctively going to his side as if looking for something he could use to shield her from the growing threat. Maria stepped closer to him, her heart pounding in her chest. "What do you mean? What's going on?" For a moment, there was a look in Alexander's eyes, one that Maria couldn't quite place. It was a mix of concern and something else. Something darker. "I didn't expect this." He turned, his voice now firm. "Stay close to me. We need to leave. Right now." But something in Maria's chest held her back. There was a connection, a pull, that she couldn't explain. She had spent her entire life being invisible to the world, blending into the background, but now, as the figure remained perfectly still, she felt as though something deep inside her was waking up. "Alexander, I can't just walk away. Something doesn't feel right. I need to know who that person is." He looked at her, his face softening. For a brief moment, Maria saw the tenderness in his eyes, the love, the protection, but it was quickly replaced with the cold, calculating mask he wore when things were not as they seemed. "Maria, please. I've seen too many people like that in my life, people who have no business being here. Trust me. Let's go." But Maria didn't move. She stood rooted to the spot, unable to tear her gaze from the figure standing at the hospital entrance. The figure had started to move, slowly, deliberately. As they took a step toward them, Maria could make out more details. The figure was tall, their clothes dark and unremarkable, but the way they moved, there was something unsettling about it. "What do you think they want?" Maria asked, her voice trembling slightly, but her determination was stronger than the fear clawing at her. "I don't know," Alexander answered, his eyes still fixed on the approaching figure. "But they're not someone you should get involved with. Trust me. They don't belong here." Before Maria could ask him what he meant, the figure stopped, standing just a few feet away from them. Maria could finally see the person's face, pale, with sharp features, and eyes that glinted with an unsettling intensity. "It's you," the figure said, their voice cold and calm. "I've been waiting for you, Maria Bennett." Maria froze. How did this person know her name? I don't know you," she stammered, her chest tightening with the sudden rush of fear that flooded her. "Who are you?" The figure stepped closer, their eyes never leaving hers. "You don't recognize me yet, do you?" Maria shook her head. "No. I don't." The figure's lips curled into a faint smile. "It's not surprising. After all, it's been years. But that doesn't matter anymore. The truth is, I've been waiting for this moment. The moment when you would come back." Alexander's hand moved to rest on Maria's back protectively, his posture tense. "You need to stay away from her," he said, his voice low and filled with authority. "She's not your concern." The figure ignored him, eyes still locked on Maria. "Oh, she is my concern. You've been hiding her for long enough. It's time for her to remember who she really is." Maria's confusion deepened. "What are you talking about?" she whispered. The figure took another step forward, and for the first time, Maria could see a flicker of recognition in their eyes. "You were the one who disappeared," they said, as though speaking to themselves. "You were supposed to be here. I waited for you." Maria recoiled, stepping back, but Alexander held her steady. "No," he said, his voice sharp and commanding. You're mistaken. Maria is not who you think she is. The figure tilted their head slightly, as though considering Alexander's words. Then, they laughed, a hollow, eerie sound that echoed around the empty lot. You're lying. I know who she is. And I'm not leaving until she remembers. Maria felt a cold shiver run down her spine. She wanted to run. She wanted to scream. But something kept her rooted to the spot, her eyes locked with the stranger who had somehow known her name. Remember what? Maria asked, her voice trembling despite herself. The figure took another step toward her, their smile widening. You're not just a simple woman, Maria. You were never meant to be. You're someone important. Someone who was supposed to change everything. Maria shook her head, tears pricking at the corners of her eyes. No. I'm not. I'm just me. I'm just a woman who. The figure raised a hand, silencing her with a sharp gesture. You're much more than that. And you will remember. It's only a matter of time. Before Maria could speak again, Alexander stepped forward, his voice cold and final. I don't care who you are or what you want. You will leave her alone. The figure smirked, eyes narrowing. I don't take orders from you, Bennett. And you can't protect her from what's coming. No one can. With those final words, the figure turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadow of the hospital. The night seemed to grow colder, the air heavier. Maria stood frozen, her heart pounding in her chest. She looked up at Alexander, who was now looking at the ground, his jaw clenched tightly. I don't understand, Maria whispered. What was that about? Who was that person? Alexander didn't answer immediately. His mind was racing, his eyes darting back to the hospital. He had known that this day would come. He had known it deep down, but he had hoped that Maria would never have to face the truth. That she would never have to remember. But now it was too late. That was someone from my past, he said, his voice low. Someone who should have never found you. Someone who knows the truth about who you are. Maria's head spun. She wanted answers. She needed them. But the fear in Alexander's eyes told her that the answers she was seeking might be more dangerous than she had ever imagined. Maria, I'm going to tell you everything, Alexander said, his voice softer now. But we can't stay here. Not right now. It's not safe. Let's go. We'll talk when we're in a safer place. Maria hesitated. She wanted to know what he meant, but the look in his eyes, the way he seemed to be holding something back, made her feel like maybe she wasn't ready for the truth. Not yet. She nodded slowly, her hand gripping his tightly as they turned away from the hospital. But as they walked to the car, Maria couldn't shake the feeling that the answers were right. There, just beyond her reach. She didn't know what truth lay ahead, but she was certain of one thing, her life was about to change forever. The figure in the shadows had made sure of that. Maria sat in the car, the silence between her and Alexander thick with tension. He kept his hands tightly gripped on the wheel, eyes focused ahead, but Maria could feel the storm raging in his mind. Her heart was racing, the words from the mysterious figure echoing in her mind. You're not just a simple woman. You were never meant to be. You're someone important. Her thoughts were like a whirlpool, spinning out of control. What did they mean by that? Why was this person looking for her? And what had Alexander been hiding? The drive to their destination felt like an eternity. They didn't speak. Maria wanted to ask so many questions, but something in Alexander's silence made her hesitate. The weight of the moment hung between them, both suffocating and undeniable. Finally, after what felt like hours, Alexander turned into a quiet street, stopping in front of a modest house that seemed to blend in with the others on the block. It was unremarkable, but Maria couldn't help but notice the security cameras and motion sensors surrounding the property. Alexander had lived in places like this before, safe, secluded, away from prying eyes. He parked the car and turned off the engine, but still, neither of them moved. The stillness felt strange, almost oppressive. "We're here," he said finally, breaking the silence. His voice was steady, but there was a quiet sadness to it that Maria couldn't ignore. Maria looked at him, her eyes searching his face for answers, for any sign that he was about to explain what was happening. But Alexander was still hiding something. She could feel it. "I need to know, Alexander," Maria said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Who was that person? What do they mean by all of it? You said that they're from your past. What does that have to do with me?" Alexander's jaw tightened, his hand resting on the steering wheel, as if he were gathering the strength to speak. He looked at her then, and for the first time, Maria saw a vulnerability in his eyes that she had never noticed before. He wasn't the same man who had walked into the bank with her earlier. Now, he was someone broken, someone struggling with a truth that was threatening to come to light. "Maria," he began, his voice heavy. "I didn't want you to find out like this. But you need to understand. You weren't just some woman working at a simple job. You were part of something much bigger." Maria felt her heart skip a beat. "What do you mean? What are you talking about?" Alexander took a deep breath, his hands still clutching the wheel. "I don't even know where to start. There's so much you don't know about who you really are." Maria felt a chill run down her spine. She wasn't sure she was ready for whatever this was, but she needed the truth. She needed to understand. "Start with what you know, Alexander," she said, her voice barely audible, but firm. "Tell me everything." He looked at her for a moment, as though trying to decide if he should keep going, but then his face softened, and he spoke again. "I'll tell you everything. But you need to know that this isn't going to be easy. What I'm about to say is going to change everything. It's going to change who you think you are. But it's also going to explain why you've been hunted for so long." Maria's mind raced, but she said nothing, waiting for him to continue. Alexander exhaled sharply, then began to speak, his words slow and deliberate. "You were born into a family that was part of something secret. Something that goes beyond anything you could ever imagine. The woman you thought was your mother? She wasn't your real mother. She adopted you when you were just a baby. You were chosen because of who you are." Maria felt as though the ground beneath her was suddenly unsteady. "What are you saying? Are you telling me I'm not her daughter?" "No," Alexander said quickly, shaking his head. "You were adopted, Maria. But you weren't just adopted by anyone. You were chosen by a group of people who knew who you were from the moment you were born." Maria's head spun. "But why? Why me? I'm just a woman who works in a bank. Why would anyone choose me?" Alexander's eyes darkened, and he leaned back in his seat, as if the weight of the story was too much to carry alone. "Because your real parents, they weren't just any ordinary people. They were involved in something much bigger. Something powerful. And you, Maria, are a part of that legacy. You are connected to something that goes beyond this world. Something that could change everything." Maria shook her head in disbelief. "I don't understand. What are you talking about?" "Your parents weren't just civilians," Alexander continued, his voice barely above a whisper. "They were part of a network. An organization that had connections all over the world. An organization that was trying to protect a secret. A secret that no one could ever know. And you, Maria, were meant to carry that secret." Maria sat in stunned silence, her mind struggling to process the flood of information. A secret? What kind of secret? What could I possibly have to do with all of this? "The secret," Alexander said, his voice filled with a grave tone, "was the knowledge of how to access something that could change the course of history. And your parents, before they disappeared, made sure that the secret would be passed on to you. They knew that one day, people would come looking for it. And now, that day has come. Maria's heart pounded in her chest as she tried to make sense of his words. This was madness. There had to be a mistake. She was just a regular woman, living a simple life. But the look in Alexander's eyes told her that he wasn't lying. Why didn't you tell me this before? Maria asked, her voice breaking. Alexander closed his eyes, his face filled with regret. Because I didn't want you to be involved in this. I didn't want you to be in danger. But the truth is, Maria, you've been in danger all along. A sudden knock on the car window broke the silence. Both Maria and Alexander jolted in their seats. Through the glass, a figure stood, silhouetted in the dim light of the street lamp. The same figure who had confronted them at the hospital. Maria's breath hitched as she looked at Alexander, who had gone completely still. His eyes were wide with recognition. It's them, he whispered, panic rising in his voice. They've found us. Maria could feel the pulse of panic thrumming in her veins as she stared at the figure standing outside the car window. The same figure who had sent chills down her spine at the hospital. The same one who had spoken to her in the shadows. The same one who had hinted at secrets she wasn't ready to hear. Her heart raced. Could it really be them? The people Alexander had been so afraid of? Beside her, Alexander's grip on the steering wheel tightened, his knuckles turning white. His face was taut with fear, a side of him she had never seen before. He wasn't the confident man who had stood beside her at the bank or the man who'd seemed so sure of their life together. This was someone else, someone broken by the weight of the truth he had kept hidden for so long. The figure outside the car didn't move, just stood there, watching them. The streetlights cast eerie shadows across his face, making him appear even more menacing, as if he were a ghost out of her worst nightmares. Maria wanted to speak, to ask what was happening, but the words caught in her throat. This was the moment. The truth would come out, and nothing would ever be the same again. Get out of the car, Alexander whispered urgently, his voice strained. We need to face this head-on. Maria glanced at him, her mind spinning. What do you mean, face it? Who is that person? What do they want from us? We don't have a choice anymore. We've been running for too long. It's time to confront them. With trembling hands, Maria unbuckled her seatbelt. Alexander did the same. He opened the door first, stepping out into the cold night air. Maria hesitated for just a moment longer before following him, her feet heavy as she moved to stand beside him. The figure across the street didn't move, still watching them with an intensity that sent shivers down Maria's spine. Who are you? Alexander called out, his voice louder now, more forceful. What do you want from us? The figure didn't reply immediately. Instead, he took a slow step forward, his boots crunching against the gravel. His face was partially obscured by the shadows, but Maria could see his eyes clearly. There was something unsettling about them, cold, calculating, and unyielding. I want what's mine, the figure said, his voice low and threatening. And I'm not leaving without it. Maria felt her breath catch in her throat. What do you mean, what's yours? She demanded. What are you talking about? Who are you? The man stepped closer, his movements deliberate. Alexander didn't flinch. He didn't back down. Maria noticed how his jaw was clenched, his fists at his sides. He wasn't just afraid. He was furious. You've been running from the truth long enough, the man said, his voice colder now, like a blade. It's time to face it. Your family wasn't just any family, Maria. Your parents, they were a part of something much bigger. You're not who you think you are. Maria's heart pounded in her chest. She wanted to scream at him, to demand more answers. But she couldn't find her voice. The man's words were unraveling everything she thought she knew about herself. Alexander stepped forward, closing the distance between them. "What are you trying to say?" he demanded. "What do you want with her?" "I'm here for the key," the man said, his eyes flicking to Maria. "She's the key. You've kept her in the dark long enough, Alexander. But it's time she understands her role." Maria looked at Alexander, her mind reeling. "The key? What does that mean? What role?" Alexander's face twisted with regret, as though the weight of everything finally crushed him. "I couldn't protect you from this, Maria. I couldn't keep you safe from the truth. But you need to understand. This isn't just about us anymore. This is about what your parents were protecting, and what they left behind." The man's eyes narrowed, a smirk forming on his lips. "You see? He's been hiding it all along. But now the time has come. She's the one who will unlock everything." Maria took a step back, the words cutting into her like a sharp knife. "Unlock what? What is all of this? Who are you? What do you want from me?" The man's expression shifted, no longer amused. "I told you. I want what's mine. And you, Maria, are the only one who can give it to me." Suddenly, everything started to click into place. The cryptic messages, the mysterious figure, the way Alexander had tried so desperately to protect her, it was all connected. But it was too much to absorb in one moment. Her mind was racing, trying to put together the puzzle pieces of a life she hadn't known she'd been living. Her voice shook as she spoke. "What? What is it that I have? What is this key you're talking about?" The man stepped even closer, closing the gap between them. "Your parents were involved in a secret society. They found something so powerful that it could change the world. But they knew it would come at a price. They knew the people who would come after it. And they left it all to you. You were the chosen one to protect the secret." Maria's knees felt weak beneath her. She felt like the ground was slipping away from her, like the world she thought she knew was slowly shattering. "I'm just a regular person," she whispered. "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not anyone special." The man shook his head, his expression hardening. "That's where you're wrong. You're far more than you know, Maria. You've always been more." "Stop," Alexander said sharply, stepping between them. "This is enough. I won't let you manipulate her anymore. Whatever it is you're after, you won't get it." The man laughed darkly, stepping back. "You think you can stop me? I've waited too long for this. I've already come too far." Maria looked at Alexander, her mind a blur of confusion and fear. What is he talking about? Please, tell me the truth. What do I have to do with any of this? Alexander turned to face her, his expression pained. You're the last piece of the puzzle, Maria. Your parents didn't just protect you, they protected a secret. A secret that, if it falls into the wrong hands, could change everything. They knew someone would come for it. They knew you would have to be the one to carry it. Carry what? Maria's voice was almost pleading now. What is it that I'm supposed to do? Before Alexander could answer, the man's voice cut through the air again. You don't need to know all of it right now. But soon, you'll have to choose. Stay in the shadows, or step into the light. It's all in your hands. The air felt thick with tension, the weight of truth hanging over them like a dark cloud. Maria's heart pounded in her chest. She didn't know what to believe anymore. Everything she thought she knew about her life, about herself, was being torn apart before her eyes. But one thing was certain, she couldn't run from this. The truth was here, and it would not be ignored any longer. I'll make my choice, Maria said, her voice steady for the first time in what felt like forever. But it's my choice. Not yours. The man smiled, a cold, triumphant smile. We'll see about that. He turned, disappearing into the shadows, leaving Maria and Alexander standing there, the night swallowing him whole. Maria took a deep breath, feeling a strange sense of resolve wash over her. Whatever was coming next, she was ready for it. She didn't know what role she played in this story. She didn't know what secrets her parents had left behind or what it meant for her future. But one thing she knew for sure, she wasn't going to let fear control her. She was ready to face the truth, no matter how painful or dangerous it might be. And with that, the journey to uncover the final secret began. The lesson. The truth always has a way of catching up with us, no matter how hard we try to hide from it. Maria's story is a reminder that we cannot escape who we are or where we come from. The mysteries we face in life may seem overwhelming, but they shape us, make us stronger, and, in the end, reveal the truth about ourselves. And the most powerful lesson of all? Even when we feel lost or uncertain, we are never alone. The strength to overcome the darkness lies within us, if we are brave enough to face it.